Welcome back, Vinyl Brethren. Today we're going to revisit a timeless prog rock classic from legendary band Porcupine Tree, and I'm talking about 2000's Lightbulb Sun. It's going to be a lot of fun, so please join us here on the Vinyl Brotherhood. So maybe you're asking yourself, why Porcupine Tree? Well, there are many great reasons. One, because they're an excellent band. Two, there has been recent news that they have come back from the relative dead, and upon hearing that, we are inspired to go back to the Porcupine Tree classics and review one of their records. Now, our producer's a big fan, and he's been trying to come across a Porcupine Tree record for quite a while, and I guess some have been recently reissued, and the first one he found is Lightbulb Sun, so that's the one we're going with. Now, to be perfectly clear, where I'm coming from, I'm kind of an outsider to the world of prog rock and the whole prog pop scene, and it's not that I dislike it, it's just that it's never really my go-to, but I'm definitely warming up to it now, and I've given this a few listens since the day that we purchased it, and I've got some opinions, I've got some hot takes, and I can't wait to share all that with you. So let's take it over to the record player, all right? Let's go.
Only take medicine if it's followed by sweets. A sickly pink liquid that puts me to sleep. My head beats a better way.
Lightbulb Sun. This is an album cover for the ages, so we're gonna admire it for a second. Okay. I hope you guys are as hyped about this review as I am, but I want to start with clearing the air about my biases and opinions towards the prog rock subgenre. These are just my opinions, so if you disagree, please convince me otherwise. I'm definitely open to hearing your thoughts. But my biggest concern with the subgenre is that sometimes I feel like the artist can be a little self-indulgent, or I don't know, I just find nothing more disheartening than a really cool guitar riff losing its luster after being repeated over and over for 8 minutes. So that kind of pretentiousness I'm not about, but this album is not about what Porcupine Tree doesn't do, but rather what they actually do. And thankfully they don't fall into those tropes on this record, and I didn't want to go blind into this review, so I did a little bit of research just to hear what people thought about it. And apparently this album is said to be their most poppy and accessible release, but that is not to say that it is either dumbed down or safe. It is neither of those things. In fact, there is a lot of exploration here, a lot of fun to be had. So let's go through that track listing. We'll take it one track at a time. Lightbulb Sun, the opening track, definitely a highlight on this record. It, both lyrically and musically, sort of expresses kind of what this album is gonna be. Lyrically, very melancholic. It's about being sick in bed and wanting to reconnect with the outside world, and everyone's out there having fun, and you're just stuck there with your loneliness. We get plenty of that melancholy on this album. We'll touch more on it a little bit later. Musically, we get to hear that big contrast. It opens with like really lush acoustic guitars, plenty of that on this album. Beautifully produced, just an absolute treat for the ears. And then the chorus comes in, and we have this absolutely iconic guitar riff. It's there to let you know that we are in for an absolute ride. Great track. How is your life today? A little creepy with its spooky circus fairground kind of sound. I love it. The harmonies are on point. And on that track, and on She's Moved On, another kind of sad song, we get these harmonies that I find really reminiscent of, I don't know, like 70s folk rock, that kind of thing. Perfectly executed. I absolutely love it. 4 chords that made a million. Awesome Middle Eastern percussion, and then we get a little tinge of that more metal side of Porcupine Tree in the chorus. A definite earworm, and great for the radio. You're absolutely gonna love it. So She's Moved On. We do get a little more of that crossover between the softer and the heavier side of Porcupine Tree. And another, I could be wrong, but this seems to me like the song that would be like classic Porcupine Tree. Let me know if I'm right or not, but definitely very memorable. Last chance to evacuate planet Earth before it's recycled. One of the centerpieces on this album for sure, and I'm pretty sure they use a sample of a cult leader. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that, but it's very interesting stuff. You just kind of hear him talking throughout, and it's a really interesting song. I'm just gonna be perfectly honest, I'm not a big fan of like that folkier intro. It's just not necessarily my cup of tea, but thankfully, for me at least, it doesn't last very long as we go more into that heavier alternative rock kind of sound as the song progresses. And after that, we get The Rest Will Flow. That song and Where Would We Be are both absolutely gorgeous, absolutely devastating, especially Where Would We Be. Man, what a song. That guitar solo is it's just crying out, man. And lyrically, we can all relate to it. It's about a past relationship, somebody you miss and how you long to be with them again, and reminiscing over what you had with that person, or at least what Steven Wilson had. These songs seem very personal and very intimate a lot of the time, and I'm not sure how autobiographical it is, but he nails those emotions perfectly. And along those same lines, we have the closer, Feel So Low, which might be my favorite song on the record, to be honest. And lyrically, Steve kind of takes a little more of a direct approach with the lyrics. They're a lot more straightforward, and it's about another deteriorating relationship and coming to terms with the fact that it's pretty much done. And we kind of get some arpeggiated guitars that sound just absolutely gorgeous. The song is just devastating and ends the album on what my producer calls kind of a quiet, cozy lull. And I don't know, it all kind of fades away and it just leaves you there thinking about it. And man, I was in a state afterwards. So yeah, that's the majority of the record. But of course, now I want to get into the two more lengthier experimental tracks, Hate Song and Russia on Ice, the 13-minute tour de force. So Hate Song, we get a little more of that more crazier metal side from Porcupine Tree, an iconic bass line. They bring in all these elements, take them out, reintroduce them. They're having plenty of fun. Lots of wah pedal, if you're a fan of that. Lots of crunchy guitars, especially at the end when that chorus just comes down swinging, man. It's crazy. And if you love bass, this is the song for you. Lots of interesting starts and stops of the percussion. And props for those harmonics on those basics. That's some top tier performance right there, guys. These are some seasoned artists, absolute veterans. I believe this is their 6th record, but yeah, I just love it. And then Russia on Ice, guys. Oh man, that song just builds. It never really overstays its welcome. Interesting song about our own self-destructive tendencies and isolation and how that affects the people in our lives. So yeah, I'm just gonna recommend that you lay in bed, turn those lights off, give it a listen, get lost in that track, guys. It's quite, it's something, yeah. So I think that more or less covers all of it. I'm just gonna say that this album in many ways subverted my expectations, exceeded it in some ways, and to be clear, I went into this listening experience wanting to love it, and I wasn't disappointed. It's a very, very good album. Just has all the makings of a classic, and I love the Britpop elements. I love, melodies that I felt were a little more common back in the early 2000s. The album was almost kind of nostalgic for me in that sense, which I wasn't really expecting. But yeah, I think that more or less covers it. I'm just going to give it a strong recommend right now. And let's take this back to the couch, and we'll discuss a little more. But Lightbulb Sun. Okay, so I've got some final thoughts on this record. Generally, I'm just really glad I gave it another chance. And now I'm just really intrigued, and I can't wait to go back and listen to the other songs in their catalog. But I'd like to ask something from the Brotherhood as well, from you guys. I'd love to hear your hot takes and your opinions. What are your thoughts on this album? How do you think it compares to the rest of their catalog? Please educate a Porcupine Tree noob such as myself. But for now, I'm definitely a big fan of Lightbulb's Son, and I think it is worthy of any collection. And surely it's a classic. So I think I'm ready to give it an 8.5. That feels right to me, and I think that kind of aligns with what I've seen the general consensus is here and there. So I guess that wraps it up. Be sure to give Lightbulb Son a listen if you haven't yet, and definitely be sure to come back and see us here on the Vinyl Brotherhood.